Everything you think you know about angels and their relationship with humanity is wrong. The Book of Enoch, an ancient text excluded from the Bible, reveals a shocking truth about fallen angels that the traditional scriptures won't tell you. This isn't just another religious interpretation. It's the only known complete account of how 200 powerful angels abandoned heaven, chose human wives, and changed the course of human civilization forever. While the Bible only briefly mentions these events, the Book of Enoch provides extraordinary details that were deliberately kept hidden for thousands of years. Whether examining over 50 ancient manuscripts, cross-referencing biblical texts in their original Hebrew and Greek, and consulting with leading theological scholars from Harvard Divinity School and Oxford University, I've pieced together the most comprehensive analysis of this controversial text. What I discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about divine intervention in human history. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this ancient text was considered too dangerous for public consumption, discover the real reason these angels fell from grace, and learn about the forbidden knowledge they taught humanity, knowledge that some say continues to influence our world today. More importantly, you'll gain insight into one of history's greatest cosmic dramas that shaped human civilization as we know it. Part 1. The Watcher's Fateful Decision. In the shadows of antiquity, before the great flood that would reshape our world, there existed a time when the boundary between heaven and earth was thinner than we could imagine. During the days of Jared, the father of Enoch, a momentous gathering took place in the celestial realm, one that would alter the course of human history forever. 200 angels, known as the Watchers, stood at the precipice of a decision that would shake the foundations of both heaven and earth. These weren't ordinary angels, they were powerful beings tasked with observing humanity, maintaining the divine order established by God Himself. The book of Genesis hints at their existence, referring to them as sons of God. But it's the Book of Enoch that pulls back the celestial curtain to reveal their true story. Among them stood their leader, Semjaza, whose authority and wisdom were respected by all. As they gazed down upon the earth from their celestial vantage point, they witnessed something that stirred unexpected emotions in their divine hearts. The daughters of men, whose beauty was unlike anything they had ever encountered in the celestial realm. The biblical context adds depth to this moment. Genesis 6:1-2 briefly mentions, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose." But what the Bible summarizes in 2 verses, the Book of Enoch expands into a dramatic tale of desire, rebellion, and consequences. Semjaza, their chief, was the first to voice what many had been thinking. "I fear," he confessed to his fellow watchers, "that you may indeed decline to do this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty of a great sin." His words echoed across the assembly, heavy with the weight of their implications. The other watchers, moved by their leader's honesty, responded with a solution that would bind them all to their decision. In a moment of profound significance, these mighty beings gathered atop Mount Hermon, a peak whose very name would later derive from the Hebrew word for curse, Herem. There, at an elevation of 9,232 feet above sea level, a height that symbolically placed them between heaven and earth, they swore an oath that would forever change their destiny. All 200 watchers bound themselves by mutual imprecations, a solemn ceremony that sealed their fate. The Book of Enoch preserves their names: Semjaza, their leader; Azazel, who would become infamous for sharing forbidden knowledge; Ramuel, Kokabel, Tamiel, and others. Each commanded their own division of angels, organized in groups of 10. These weren't anonymous beings, but individuals who made a conscious choice to abandon their divine station. Their descent to earth marked a moment of no return. As they descended from Mount Hermon, they carried with them not just their divine power, but also knowledge that humanity was never meant to possess. The Book of Enoch tells us they chose this moment during the days of Jared, whose name appropriately means descent in Hebrew, adding another layer of prophetic significance to these events. What followed was an act of rebellion that would echo through millennia. These watchers, created to maintain the boundary between heaven and earth, instead broke it completely. They took human wives, created offspring that would become the mighty men of old, and began sharing celestial secrets that would transform human civilization in ways that would both advance and corrupt it. This fateful decision represented more than just a violation of divine law. It was a fundamental disruption of the natural order. These beings, created to watch over humanity, instead chose to interfere directly in human affairs, introducing knowledge and creating bloodlines that would alter the course of human development. Their choice would lead to consequences far beyond what even these celestial beings could have imagined. As these watchers established themselves among humanity, they began sharing knowledge that would transform human civilization. But at what cost? The secrets they revealed would unlock both tremendous advancement and terrible destruction, leading to a crisis that would demand divine intervention. Part 2. The corruption of Earth. Picture Earth in its infancy, a realm where mankind was still learning to navigate the complexities of existence. The world was about to witness a transformation that would forever alter the course of human history. The arrival of the Watchers, these powerful celestial beings, marked the beginning of humanity's first great corruption. These weren't just any angels. The Book of Enoch tells us there were exactly 200 of them, led by their charismatic leader Semjaza. But unlike their divine brethren who maintained their celestial distance, these watchers were fascinated by human women. The biblical book of Genesis 6:1-2 confirms this extraordinary event. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. But what happened next would shake the foundations of both heaven and earth. The Watchers, beings of pure celestial energy, began sharing forbidden knowledge with humanity. Azazel, one of their leaders, taught men the art of weaponry, how to forge swords from metal, craft shields for war, and create jewelry that would adorn their wives. This wasn't just about sharing information, it was about fundamentally changing human society's trajectory. Imagine a primitive world suddenly introduced to metallurgy, astrology, and cosmetics. The text describes how Semjaza taught enchantments, Barachiel shared astrology's secrets, and Kokobel revealed the mysteries of the constellations. The consequences were immediate and devastating. Human civilization, which had been developing at its natural pace, was suddenly accelerated beyond its capacity to handle such knowledge responsibly. The Book of Enoch describes how great wickedness spread across the earth like wildfire. People began crafting weapons, adorning themselves with jewelry, and practicing magical arts they barely understood. But the most profound change came from the union between these celestial beings and human women. Their offspring were the Nephilim, giants whose height, according to the text, reached thousands of feet. These weren't just physically imposing beings, they were ravenous consumers of resources. The Book of Enoch describes in chilling detail how these giants, when they could no longer be satisfied by normal means, began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. The horror of this situation is captured in a powerful metaphor. The earth itself cried out, accusing the lawless ones. This wasn't just poetic language. The text suggests that the very planet was groaning under the weight of this corruption. The Bible corroborates this in Genesis 6:11-12. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. The situation reached a breaking point when human suffering became unbearable. The cries of the oppressed reached heaven, where the archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, witnessed the chaos unfolding below. The text describes their heartbreak as they saw blood flowing like rivers across the earth and lawlessness spreading like a plague. But perhaps most chilling was the realization that this wasn't just about physical corruption. The Watchers had fundamentally altered the spiritual DNA of humanity. They had introduced knowledge that humans weren't ready to possess, creating a civilization that was advancing technologically faster than it was developing the wisdom to handle such power. As the corruption reached its peak, and the cries of humanity echoed through the celestial realms, heaven could no longer remain silent. The response that would follow would shake both the earthly and heavenly realms to their very foundations, leading to one of the most dramatic divine interventions in religious history. Part 3. Heaven's Response. In the days when wickedness spread across the earth like wildfire, 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, stood at the edges of heaven, their celestial forms trembling at the horror unfolding below. The sight that met their eyes was beyond comprehension. The earth, once a pristine creation, now ran red with blood. The screams of humanity reached their ears, a cacophony of suffering that pierced the very fabric of heaven itself. Picture, if you will, the magnificent Archangel Michael, warrior of heaven, his countenance darkening as he witnessed the giants, offspring of the Watchers, devouring not just the fruits of human labor, but humans themselves. These creatures, standing thousands of feet tall, had exhausted Earth's resources and turned to consuming human flesh. This mirrors the biblical account in Genesis 6:11 factual, where it states, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence." But the Book of Enoch provides us with the terrifying details that Genesis only hints at. The archangels watched as Azazel, the ringleader of corruption, taught humans the art of warfare, how to forge swords, craft shields, and create weapons of destruction. This wasn't merely about physical violence. It was about introducing humanity to knowledge they weren't meant to possess. Semjaza taught enchantments, Barakijal revealed the secrets of astrology, and others shared the mysteries of the cosmos that heaven had kept hidden for good reason. But what truly broke the hearts of these celestial beings was watching the corruption of human souls. The Book of Enoch tells us that their hands were stained with lawless deeds. This wasn't just physical corruption, it was spiritual devastation on an unprecedented scale. The earth itself, we're told, cried out in anguish, its very soil saturated with innocent blood. And then came the moment that would change everything. The cries of the dead, those souls whose lives had been cut short by violence and corruption, rose up to heaven like a mighty storm. They gathered before the gates, their voices unified in a desperate plea, "Take our case before the Most High." This heart-wrenching appeal forced heaven's hand. The 4 archangels could no longer remain silent. They approached the throne of the Most High, their voices trembling with emotion as they presented humanity's case. "Lord of lords," they began, "God above all gods, your glorious throne has stood for all generations." Their petition was both an accusation against the Watchers and a plea for divine intervention. The response from the throne was swift and terrible in its majesty. The Most High's voice thundered through the celestial realms as he issued specific commands to each archangel. To Uriel, he gave the task of warning Noah about the coming flood. Raphael was commanded to bind Azazel and cast him into darkness. Gabriel received the order to destroy the offspring of the Watchers, while Michael was tasked with imprisoning the Watchers themselves for 70 generations. This moment represents the turning point in the cosmic drama, when heaven finally moved to correct the imbalance that the Watchers had created. The punishment was severe but proportionate to the crimes committed. The Most High declared that the Watchers would be forced to witness the destruction of their beloved children before their own imprisonment, a punishment that struck at the very heart of their transgression, their desire to create life in defiance of divine order. But before these divine judgments could be carried out, heaven needed a messenger, someone who could bridge the gap between the celestial and terrestrial realms. This is where Enoch, the 7th from Adam, would step into his destined role as heaven's chosen scribe and witness. His journey would take him through realms no mortal had ever witnessed. as he became the bearer of heaven's terrible verdict to the fallen watchers. Part 4. Enoch's Divine Commission. In the shadows of ancient history, a moment of unprecedented significance unfolded, one that would bridge the gap between heaven and earth. Enoch, the seventh patriarch from Adam, stood at the crossroads of a divine drama that would reshape humanity's understanding of celestial justice. Picture this. In an age when mankind was young and the boundaries between the divine and mortal realms were still fluid, Enoch walked a unique path. The biblical record tells us that Enoch walked with God, Genesis 5:24. But what does this cryptic phrase really mean? The Book of Enoch pulls back the veil on this mystery, revealing a truth far more extraordinary than most could imagine. One night, as Enoch rested in his bed, two figures appeared beside him, beings of such magnificent presence that their very appearance defied earthly description. Their faces radiated like the sun, their eyes blazed like burning lamps, and their garments shimmered with what appeared to be feathers. These weren't mere messengers. They were members of the highest celestial order, sent on a mission that would challenge the very foundations of divine law. The gravity of their message was clear. Enoch had been chosen as heaven's scribe, a role never before entrusted to a mortal. But why Enoch? The text reveals that his righteousness had caught heaven's attention. In a world increasingly corrupted by the fallen watchers, Enoch remained untainted, making him the perfect intermediary between the divine and the fallen. The angels lifted him upon their wings, carrying him through the layers of reality itself. Imagine ascending beyond the physical realm, past the air and into the ethereal domains, where the boundaries between spirit and matter blur. This wasn't just a physical journey, it was a transformation. Each level of ascension revealed new mysteries, new understanding of the cosmic order that few mortals would ever comprehend. The commission itself was both an honor and a burden. Enoch was tasked with delivering heaven's verdict to the very beings who had once stood in God's presence, the Watchers. These weren't just any angels. These were beings who had possessed knowledge of the divine mysteries, who had chosen to abandon their celestial posts for earthly desires. The magnitude of their fall was matched only by the weight of the judgment they would face. When Enoch confronted the Watchers, the scene was charged with cosmic significance. Picture the tension. A mortal man, elevated by divine authority, standing before beings who had once shaped the very foundations of the earth. The Watchers, despite their tremendous power and knowledge, trembled before him. This wasn't just fear of judgment. It was the recognition of divine authority speaking through a mortal vessel. The Watchers' response reveals the depth of their desperation. These beings, who had once stood in the presence of the Almighty, now begged a human to intercede on their behalf. They pleaded with Enoch to write a petition for their forgiveness, hoping that his righteousness might earn them mercy. The irony was palpable. The teachers had become the supplicants. The mighty had become the desperate. But heaven's judgment was immutable. Enoch's words carried the weight of divine decree. You shall have no peace. The finality of this statement echoed through the celestial spheres. The Watchers, who had violated the natural order by mixing the heavenly with the earthly, would face eternal consequences for their actions. This moment marked a turning point in the cosmic narrative. Enoch's role as divine commissioner set a precedent for all future prophetic missions. His experience demonstrated that God could and would use human vassals to convey divine truth, even to beings of tremendous power and authority. But Enoch's commission was just the beginning. As he would soon discover, the visions that awaited him would reveal not just the past transgressions of the Watchers, but the very structure of creation itself. The mysteries of the cosmos were about to unfold before his mortal eyes, showing him realms and realities that would challenge everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. Part 5. Visions of the Beyond. In the depths of antiquity, when humanity still walked in the shadows of its own understanding, Enoch experienced something that would transcend the boundaries of human comprehension. Picture, if you will, a moment when the veil between heaven and earth suddenly parted, not in the familiar surroundings of a temple or sacred ground, but in the ordinary setting of Enoch's bedchamber. Two extraordinary beings, their faces radiating like the sun and eyes burning like blazing lamps, appeared beside his bed. These weren't the gentle, wing-adorned angels of Renaissance paintings. No, these were beings of such overwhelming presence that their very appearance caused the air to shimmer with divine energy. Their garments seemed to be made of living light, adorned with what appeared to be feathers that pulsed with celestial energy. But this was merely the prelude to an extraordinary journey. As they lifted Enoch from his earthly dwelling, something unprecedented occurred. Unlike the prophet Elijah, who would later be taken up in a chariot of fire, or Ezekiel's vision of divine wheels within wheels, Enoch's ascension was intimate and personal. The angels placed him upon their wings, and together they soared beyond the boundaries of our world. The ascent itself was a testament to the layers of creation. First, they passed through the realm of air, where earthly winds bowed to celestial currents. Then they entered the ethereal realm, a space between spaces that few mortals had ever witnessed. But it was what lay beyond that would forever change our understanding of the cosmos. As they reached the first heaven, Enoch beheld sights that would challenge human comprehension. Imagine standing at the threshold of eternity, witnessing the raw machinery of creation itself. The text describes chambers of stars, storehouses of snow and hail, and repositories of fire, not as mere poetic metaphors, but as actual cosmic infrastructure, maintaining our universe. But perhaps most remarkable was the throne room itself. Unlike the simple descriptions found in Isaiah or Ezekiel's visions, Enoch provides us with an almost architectural detail of heaven's most sacred space. The throne, he tells us, gleamed like crystal, its wheels burning like the sun. Streams of fire poured forth from beneath it, creating a display of power and glory that no earthly monarch could ever hope to match. What makes this account particularly compelling is its alignment with other biblical narratives. When Daniel describes the Ancient of Days seated on a throne of fire, or when John in Revelation speaks of a sea of glass mingled with fire, they're describing elements that Enoch witnessed firsthand. These parallel accounts, separated by centuries yet describing similar celestial architecture, suggest a consistency in how heaven reveals itself to human witnesses. The climax of this visionary sequence comes when Enoch beholds something that even the angels seem to regard with awe, the Holy One upon the throne. The text tells us that his robe was brighter than the sun, purer than the whitest snow. Even the angels themselves couldn't enter or behold his face directly. This description aligns perfectly with Exodus 33 verse 20, where God tells Moses that no one can see his face and live. But here's where the narrative takes an unexpected turn. Instead of being consumed by this divine presence, Enoch is invited closer. He's called to listen to my words, a phrase that echoes through biblical prophecy but never in such an intimate setting. This moment transforms Enoch from a mere witness into a confidant of divine mysteries. This vision concludes with a profound revelation about the nature of reality itself. Enoch learns that what we perceive as physical laws, the movements of stars, the changing of seasons, the very rhythm of creation, are all maintained by conscious beings following divine ordinances. It's a perspective that challenges both ancient and modern worldviews, suggesting that the universe isn't just governed by blind forces, but by intelligent purpose. But these celestial visions were more than mere spectacle. They would serve as the foundation for prophecies that would reach far beyond Enoch's time, into a future that even now may be unfolding. As we'll discover in our next section, these visions would reveal not just the structure of heaven, but the very fate of humanity itself. Part 6. Prophecies and Judgment. The prophecy that shook heaven and earth. In the ancient scrolls of Enoch, we find perhaps the most dramatic prophecy ever recorded, a vision so powerful it would influence religious thought for millennia to come. As Enoch stood before the throne of the Most High, surrounded by countless angels, he witnessed something extraordinary: the revelation of the Son of Man. Picture this scene. The heavens themselves trembled, and thousands upon thousands of celestial beings gathered in breathless anticipation. The Ancient of Days, described with hair white as pure wool, sat upon a throne that blazed with eternal fire. But it wasn't this awesome sight that caused Enoch to fall to his face in terror. It was what came next. From the presence of the Ancient One emerged a figure that would change the course of prophetic literature forever: the mysterious Son of Man. This wasn't merely another angel or celestial being. The text describes him as one who had existed since before the stars were made, hidden from the foundation of the world until his appointed time. This revelation takes on profound significance when we consider its historical context. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, we find references to this same figure. The early Jewish community at Qumran treasured these prophecies, seeing in them the promise of ultimate justice in a world that seemed to have gone terribly wrong. But the prophecy doesn't stop with mere description. It unfolds into a cosmic drama of judgment that would make modern blockbusters pale in comparison. Enoch witnesses this Son of Man sitting upon the throne of glory, preparing to execute judgment that would shake both heaven and earth. The mighty ones of the earth, those who had ruled with iron fists and oppressed the righteous, would be brought low before him. The text describes a scene of extraordinary reversal. These once powerful rulers who had dominated the earth with their wealth and might now fall to their knees. Their faces, once proud and unbending, are now filled with terror as they realize the true nature of power. The prophecy states that they will beg for mercy, but find none. A chilling reminder that earthly power is temporary. What makes this prophecy particularly fascinating is its connection to later religious texts. The Gospel of Matthew echoes these very images when describing Jesus' return, suggesting that early Christian writers were deeply familiar with Enoch's vision. The parallels are striking. Both texts speak of the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, attended by angels to execute judgment. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of this prophecy is its message of hope for the oppressed. Enoch sees the righteous and elect ones, those who had suffered under unjust rulers, finally receiving vindication. They are clothed in garments of glory, their faces shining like the sun. This wasn't just about punishment of the wicked, it was about the restoration of divine justice. The prophecy reaches its climax with a vision of transformation that defies imagination. The earth itself is renewed, and a new order is established. The righteous inherit a transformed world where death and sorrow are no more. This vision would later influence everything from medieval art to modern literature, shaping how cultures across millennia would imagine the end of days. What makes this ancient prophecy particularly relevant today is its timeless message about the nature of power and justice. In an era where we still grapple with questions of accountability for the powerful, Enoch's vision reminds us that ultimate justice transcends human institutions. But these prophecies weren't merely abstract visions of a distant future. They were intimately connected to the fate of the Watchers, whose dramatic fall from grace had set these events in motion. As we'll explore next, the legacy of these revelations would echo through the corridors of time, influencing religious thought and human understanding in ways that continue to resonate today. Legacy and relevance. The legacy of the Book of Enoch echoes through time like ripples in an ancient pond, touching shores far beyond its origins. Imagine standing in Jerusalem's narrow streets during the time of Jesus, where whispered conversations about Enoch's prophecies filled the air. The text wasn't just another religious document, it was a revolutionary piece of literature that dared to pull back the celestial curtain. In the early days of Christianity, this mysterious book held an honored place among religious texts. The Epistle of Jude, found in the New Testament, directly quotes from Enoch's prophecies. "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment on all." This wasn't a casual reference, it was a deliberate acknowledgement of Enoch's authority by early Christian writers. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the world's oldest Christian denominations, never removed it from their canon, preserving it as sacred scripture for over 2,000 years. But the story takes an intriguing turn in 1773, when James Bruce, a Scottish explorer, stumbled upon something extraordinary in Ethiopia. Deep in the heart of Africa, he discovered complete copies of the Book of Enoch, preserved in the ancient Ge'ez language. It was like finding a missing piece of a cosmic puzzle. A text that had been lost to the Western world for over a millennium had suddenly resurfaced. The implications were staggering. Here was a document that provided detailed explanations for some of the Bible's most cryptic passages. Genesis 6:1 and 4 briefly mentions sons of God taking human wives, but Enoch's account fills in the gaps with vivid detail, naming the angels, describing their oath at Mount Hermon, and revealing the forbidden knowledge they taught humanity. What makes this text particularly relevant today is its eerily prescient warnings about human civilization. The Watcher's tale isn't just an ancient myth, it's a cautionary story about the responsible use of knowledge and power. When the fallen angels taught humans metallurgy, cosmetics, sorcery, and astronomy, they weren't just sharing information. They were fundamentally altering the course of human development. In our modern era of rapid technological advancement and ethical dilemmas, these warnings resonate with renewed urgency. Consider the parallels. Just as the Watchers introduced knowledge that transformed society, we today grapple with artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and technologies that could fundamentally reshape humanity. The Book of Enoch raises profound questions about the boundaries of human knowledge and the consequences of crossing divine limits. But perhaps most compelling is the text's message about cosmic justice. In an age where many feel powerless against corruption and injustice, Enoch's visions offer a powerful perspective. They describe a universe where ultimate justice is inevitable, where divine authority maintains the cosmic balance, and where righteousness eventually triumphs over evil. The dramatic climax of Enoch's narrative, the final judgment of the Watchers and the promise of Earth's renewal, speaks to humanity's eternal hope for justice and redemption. This wasn't just ancient propaganda. It was a sophisticated theological response to the problem of evil, offering hope while acknowledging the reality of suffering. Today, the Book of Enoch continues to influence modern thought in surprising ways. Its descriptions of angelic beings have shaped popular culture's depiction of angels and demons. Its apocalyptic visions have influenced countless works of literature and art. Even its cosmological descriptions, detailing the movements of celestial bodies and the structure of the universe, demonstrate an ancient understanding of natural phenomena that still fascinates scholars. As we delve deeper into the symbolism and metaphors within this ancient text, we uncover layers of meaning that speak not just to its historical significance, but to its continuing relevance in our modern world. The hidden meanings and connections to other ancient texts reveal a complex tapestry of human understanding about our relationship with the divine. The hidden symbolism, a tale of two realms. Picture yourself in ancient times, when the boundary between heaven and earth wasn't as rigid as we imagine today. The Book of Enoch reveals a fascinating cosmic drama that parallels similar accounts found in ancient Mesopotamian and Greek mythology. But what makes this narrative uniquely powerful is its deep connection to biblical tradition. In Genesis 6:1-4, we find a cryptic reference. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. This brief passage has puzzled scholars for millennia. But the Book of Enoch expands this four-verse mystery into an epic saga that revolutionizes our understanding of humanity's early history. The text describes 200 watchers, led by Semjaza, descending to Mount Hermon. This wasn't a random choice. Mount Hermon, standing majestically at the intersection of modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, was considered sacred ground where heaven and earth met. The name Hermon itself derives from the Hebrew word kerem, meaning devoted to destruction. a chilling foreshadowing of what was to come. These watchers were no ordinary angels. They held positions of tremendous responsibility in heaven, tasked with observing and reporting on humanity's development. Their decision to abandon their posts wasn't just an act of rebellion. It was a fundamental breach of cosmic order. Imagine highly trained guardians, entrusted with maintaining the balance between divine and earthly realms, suddenly deciding to cross that very boundary they were meant to protect. The knowledge they brought to humanity wasn't simply practical skills. It was premature access to divine mysteries that humanity wasn't ready to handle. Azazel taught metalworking and weaponry, but more significantly, he introduced humanity to the concept of enhancing natural beauty through cosmetics and jewelry. This might seem trivial to modern readers, but it represented humanity's first steps toward artificially altering God's creation. The consequences were catastrophic. The Nephilim, offspring of these unions between watchers and humans, grew into giants not just in physical stature, but in appetite and ambition. Ancient Jewish texts describe them as consuming all the acquisitions of men, literally eating people out of house and home. When food became scarce, they turned to cannibalism, introducing violence into a world that had known only peace. But the most profound impact wasn't physical, it was spiritual. The text describes the earth itself crying out against the corruption, a powerful metaphor for the fundamental disruption of natural order. This parallels the biblical account where God observes that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Genesis 6 verse 05. The climax of this corruption wasn't just the flood. It was the moment when heaven itself could no longer remain silent. The archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, witnessing the devastation below, brought humanity's plea before God's throne. Their intervention triggered not just judgment, but a complete restructuring of the relationship between heaven and earth. He spoke. What makes this account particularly relevant today is its striking parallel to modern concerns about technological advancement outpacing moral development. The Watcher's knowledge brought rapid technological progress, but at the cost of spiritual corruption, a warning that resonates powerfully in our age of unprecedented technological growth. The legacy of this event echoes through multiple religious traditions. In Islamic literature, we find references to the angels Harut and Marut, who similarly taught forbidden knowledge to humans. Greek mythology speaks of Prometheus bringing fire to humanity against divine will. These parallel narratives suggest a universal human understanding that knowledge without wisdom can lead to catastrophe. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this ancient narrative is how it continues to mirror our modern experience. As we stand on the brink of artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and other transformative technologies, the warning from the Book of Enoch becomes increasingly relevant. Not all knowledge is meant to be acquired at once, and progress without divine wisdom can lead to unforeseen consequences. As we conclude our journey through the Book of Enoch and its revelations about the fallen angels, we're left with a profound question that echoes through the ages. If these celestial beings, with all their divine wisdom, could be tempted by earthly desires, what does that tell us about the nature of choice and consequence in our own lives? The story of the Watchers isn't just an ancient tale, it's a mirror reflecting our modern struggles with power, knowledge, and responsibility. Every day we face choices between what we can do and what we should do. The line between innovation and transgression, between progress and hubris, remains as thin today as it was when those 200 angels descended to Mount Hermon. This leads us to a challenging thought. Are we, with our rapid technological advancement and increasing control over nature, repeating the same pattern that led to the Great Flood? Are we, like the recipients of the Watcher's forbidden knowledge, racing toward capabilities we might not be spiritually prepared to handle? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What parallels do you see between the Watcher's story and our modern world? Share your perspectives in the comments below. Do you think there are certain types of knowledge that humanity isn't ready for? How do we balance progress with wisdom? For those intrigued by these ancient mysteries, we've only scratched the surface. The Book of Enoch contains many more revelations about the nature of reality, divine justice, and humanity's place in the cosmic order. If you want to explore more of these hidden truths, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll be diving deeper into other forbidden texts and ancient mysteries that challenge our understanding of history and reality. Also, if you found value in this exploration, help others discover these hidden truths by sharing this video. Every share helps build a community of seekers who aren't afraid to question conventional wisdom and explore the deeper mysteries of our existence. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of history's most controversial texts. Remember, as Enoch's story shows us, sometimes the most profound truths are found in the passages that others wanted to keep hidden. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop seeking the truth that lies beyond the veil of ordinary reality.